So far, the Holy Father's mission to Latin America has been a whirlwind, and that's after just one country of the three-nation tour. The pontiff has been preaching about achieving a new economic and ecological world order with his encyclical as the cornerstone, and he is defining the tool to get there: evangelization, which the Holy Father says is our revolution, calling it the remedy to war, struggle, and division. Francis says we evangelize not with grand words or complicated concepts, but by being joyful witnesses to the gospel. An exciting idea, but one that needs examples in order to better understand. And no one is more qualified to help us understand the pontiff's words than Father John Cush, the Brooklyn priest recently selected to help run the Pontifical Seminary in Rome, the North American College. Father Cush, how do we best become joyful witnesses of the gospel? And don't think we're going to forget about that knack. We're going to get to that, but let's get an answer to that first.
Excellent, thanks. I'm so happy to be here in person and not on Skype.
And not on Skype,
so it's great to be with you. Just looking at it, I think we have to look at two important things that the Holy Father, we're looking for concrete examples that he can give us how to evangelize. The first is really to look not only at the encyclical that he just released, Laudato Si, but also that post-apostolic exhortation from 2013, Evangelii Gaudium. That's so important. And the one thing I think above all else that separates this Holy Father from the last two, for instance, Holy Fathers, just he's talking about St. John Paul II and Benedict XVI, is that our Holy Father, Pope Francis, is using an inductive method, not a deductive method.
Okay.
He's not starting from principles. You hear that whole idea. It doesn't begin with words. It begins with the individual. He's talking about look at each individual, and from that individual, then you draw the general conclusions, not general conclusions to the individual. So I think on a local level, that's where the Holy Father wants us to start. And to start really with us. I mean, let peace begin on earth, let it begin with me, to use that as an expression. That's what he's really asking. If we got to get ourselves together as individuals, and then we get our family together, then we get our church together, and then once our church is together, that unity, and that holistic unity, then we can go out to the whole world. So it's really getting ourselves settled in that, starting with the individual, and then working our way up to the greater things.
Now, Father Cush, talk to me about the tone that he's using, the words, revolution. That's a very strong word. You hear that, you're kind of intimidated. It's not meant to intimidate, it's intended to what?
To inspire, if anything. Realize that when he had that Mass a day ago, he was in Bicentennial Park, one of the first places in Latin America where revolution was called for, where that change for liberation was called for. So he's really asking the people to liberate themselves from selfishness, from secularism, to really change the world, have a revolution towards the gospel, and really be on fire with the love of the gospel. And that's so important right now to see what he's aiming for. Not for those great, big, sweeping principles, but to start with each individual and to go forward. Those little simple acts. Think about all the little acts the Holy Father does continually that sometimes get noticed and sometimes don't get noticed at all.
Right.
Those acts of kindness, those acts of personal integrity.
Going out into the peripheries
that's
and
what
reaching
I think
out.
How we can do it.
And another aspect of his speech, again, during his visit was the importance of educating young people for today's world. I think that is so undervalued. How do we go about doing that? Talk to us first about how important it is and how we go about doing that.
Sure. Again, we looked at what our Holy Father is doing. And I think the university speech he gave the other day could be kind of misinterpreted by some, because he's not saying academic degrees aren't important. Not at all. He's not saying education is important. He's saying education in terms of your own moral education is twice as important.
He's someone you have to listen to.
You can't just take the sound bites of the Holy Father, because we've seen what happens when that does occur. Many, many misinterpretations and false expectations on either perspective about what our Holy Father is saying or is not saying. But what he's saying is the individual person, more than anything else, the educated person, not only must be academically educated, but must be able to see the interconnectedness of it all, to see how everybody, one action affects everything. What affects you affects me, and all of our actions affect everyone else. And that more responsibility we have for each other.
All right, and in the time we have left, let's talk about that education and your new position at the NAC. How do you incorporate all of this into this wonderful new position?
Well, it was quite a surprise to be asked to serve as the Assistant Vice Rector of the North American College. I'm an alumnus of the Seminary Division and now of the Graduate Division at the Casa Santa Maria, and I'm so pleased to go back and assist in some way in this particular administrative and formative role at the North American College. And I think the thing we need to have is holistic formation of us, of our priests, not just an academic formation, but also a spiritual formation, a human formation. Those four pillars of what we call the program of priestly formation: the apostolic, the human, the intellectual, and the spiritual.
I can't express how happy we are for you, but how long are you with us?
Well, I'll be here in the diocese until the beginning of August, and then head on over to the North American College for faculty meetings and to get ready for our seminarians that are going to be starting this year. We'll have about 71 or 72 new first-year seminarians. So pray for them, and pray for your Brooklyn seminarians studying at Dunwoody and other seminaries, and all your Brooklyn priests as well.
We always do. We're so proud of our Brooklyn priests, our Brooklyn seminarians, and especially proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank
I can't
you,
express how
Liz.
happy I am. Thank
God
you, and
bless
thank you
you
for being here tonight and for your insight. We always love
Pleasure.
having you here.